Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Miss Bala. And this film really was sold on the fact that this is going to be a big film for Gina Rodriguez, who's so hot right now. And honestly, I've never watched Jane the Virgin, so I don't know her from that show, but I did see her in Annihilation and thought that she did a great job in her supporting role in that film. So I was excited. And I love action movies and thrillers, so I'm really willing to give these kinds of films a chance, and this was indeed an action thriller. And it was indeed a movie. Was it good? Was it bad? It's kind of there in the middle. And I didn't realize going in that this was a remake of a Spanish language film. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the original is probably better than this film, because usually that is what happens. But besides Gina Rodriguez, Catherine Hardwicke was the one who directed this film and adapted this, brought this to the screen. And basically, the big positives that I could say about this film was Gina Rodriguez does a really good job. She's very charismatic. She is somebody that we want to root for in this film, and we appreciate and feel connected with her throughout the film, and she keeps us in it. And that's important, because if you don't have an interesting and or likable lead in an action film, then it kind of is just like, blah. And then you really have to lean on the action, which, to be perfectly honest, the action and the thrills in this film aren't anything special. They're pretty straightforward. This really reminds me of another January action thriller, which I guess technically this was February, but let's be real here. January, February for the longest time just kind of bled together when it came to movies. Was Sleepless with Jamie Foxx that came out a couple years ago. That was like, it was an action thriller. There's some things I really liked about it. There's some things that were just like, blah. And honestly, the script of this film really isn't super interesting. The characters, there's not a whole lot of depth to a lot of them. Maybe the man that runs this like cartel that she falls in with, he's probably the most interesting besides her in this film, but everybody else is pretty like, there they are. There's some kind of stereotype, there's some kind of character painted. And one particular thing that I had some issue with was the pacing of this film, because towards the beginning, like the first act of this film zips like crazy. And I'm just like, I guess I would have appreciated a little more time of getting to know her and her relationship with her friend, which is basically her whole motivation throughout this film. But then it's like, she gets kidnapped by cartels. She gets away from the cartels. She gets kidnapped by the DEA. And then she gets kidnapped again. And it's just like, okay. And it gets repetitive. And then it takes its time towards the second act of this film. And then it hits the third act, and then it's like revs back up again. And it's just like, for an hour and 45-minute movie, the middle of this kind of sunk a little bit, and you would have appreciated to like zip a little bit more through the story. And I guess it would have been more interesting at those quieter moments if things were more interesting and some of the other characters were more interesting. But there's some dumb decisions. Some of these characters are just written to be like, I'm mad, I'm the DEA, and your story seems perfectly normal and could have easily happened, but I'm not going to believe you, and we're going to threaten your safety and your freedom. And it's just like, okay, you're just being a dick because you're written as a dick. And that's basically it. And there's no logic or reason to what you're doing, but your job is to force her into doing something. And this film shamelessly sets up for sequels and follow-up films to it. And I'm like, honestly, I really enjoyed Gina Rodriguez enough and Anthony Mackie for his tiny role that leads towards other films, but it's kind of like, if they put a more interesting film with other more interesting characters around it, I wouldn't mind checking out the second film. And I feel like there's a lot of, that could be said about a lot of action films or thrillers or detective stories where it's like, if the central character is really charismatic and you really enjoy them and would have preferred it if they were in a better story, there is always that option. I don't know how much money this is going to make because it already seems like it's not even going to beat Glass this weekend, and it's Glass's third weekend, and that's dropping pretty quickly, so I don't know how much money this is going to make, nor do I recall what the budget was. I can't imagine the budget being huge on this because it wasn't like I'm watching a Fast and Furious movie, but I thought this film was pretty straightforward, pretty generic action thriller with room for growth in a potential other film. And if you're really into action thrillers and you don't really have like, I have to absolutely love it, and you just want to go out for some thrills and some action, go check this out this weekend. Or what I'd probably suggest is waiting for like a matinee or like a morning price. I wouldn't pay, like I saw this in Dolby, but that's because I have AMC A-List. Shameless plugs. AMC A-List is amazing. But really for this film, I would never have paid like $16, $17 for the ticket to see this in Dolby. I saw it in the morning, so technically it was only $10, but still, go cheaper if you're going to go check this film out. And let me know what you think. Let's talk some movies. And thank you as always for supporting your Wasteland reviewer.